Miss Jolyn, welcome. Just sit tight. We are about to get our guest on the line, and then we will get rocking. We shall get going. Are you good though? Hi, Jennifer. Welcome. Give us 5 seconds. I'm just waiting for Thuli to come online, and then we should be able to go. Hi, Sive. Oh, Sive. Hi. Look at me breaking the things. Anyway, how's everybody doing? We well? We good? Is it warm where you are? Because, yeah, no. This winter thing is a real thing, guys. It is a real thing. Hi, Lebo. Welcome. Thank you for joining us as well. Again, I'm just waiting for Tulu to come online. Um, and then we should be able to get going. But let's see if we can find her. Da, 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 da. Do, 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 do. Okay, well, I've sent her a message saying we're waiting for her. She had confirmed. I just spoken to her 5 minutes before we went on. So don't forget, if you do have questions about your own personal finances, just if you want me to keep it, well, I suppose I can't really because it comes up on screen, but just ask them on the screen. Just send them through in the comments section, and then we'll see if Tuli can have some answers. I know a lot of us are thinking about that right now. So it's real, and let's keep it real. Let me just check on Tuli one more time. Lebo, how are you? Good to see you as well. Okay, there you go. Hi, Tuli. Okay, so let's get Tuli on the line. LJ, good to see you. Hey, T.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're great, thank you. You can hear us clearly? You're good to go?
I'm good to go.
Awesome. Okay, so we're just, 2 minutes after 10. Welcome to everybody who's joining us. The session normally starts at 10 a.m., but we were just trying to sort out a bit of a technicality there. It's called opinions, and it's exactly that. We need to have your opinions. We need to hear your opinions. The idea was this. Look, there's a lot happening in the world. There are various types of subject matter that each of us, is a subject matter expert and it's of value for us to meet and just chat about these things and hear some people who've actually invested time in thinking about these things. And also, we get to share our own 2 cents worth, two bob, throw it into the equation. And considering that we are, going through this COVID-19 challenge, and we are dealing with the implications and impact thereof, we can't have a conversation that does not speak to the impact of COVID-19 on money. I think that's a universal thing. We're all experiencing it. We're all feeling it. And so I reached out to a friend of mine, and I said, yo, let's go and have this conversation. People want to know what to do with their money. And I'll give you her background. I think a lot of people already know who she is. But yeah, that's the conversation I want us to have today. We're on until 11 o'clock, so please send the questions through. I'll try and get through them through as many of them as possible. It's worth putting a disclaimer that obviously we are not a financial service provider, or we're not licensed to provide financial advice. That's the session's called opinions. It is still in your best interest to go and see your financial advisor if there are things of interest that Thuli brings up, and just to check that it's aligned with whatever your personal financial situation might be. With that being said, good morning, Tools.
Morning, Katlego. How are you doing?
I'm phenomenal. How are you?
I'm super.
Okay, so quick background for anybody who doesn't know you. I try to pick out a couple of things from your resume because I need to work harder in life.
That's why I said, hey, just pick whatever you like. Just highlight one or two things.
So Thuli Magubane is a UCT graduate. She holds a PDM from Wits Business School as well. She also completed a master's program in leadership and strategy from the #1 business school in Europe, Instituto de Espressa.
The empresa.
That's as much as you're going to get in terms of my ability to speak Spanish or anything close to that. She's also worked for the likes of Absa Capital and Investec. She is also the founder of Mintfresh Advisory, which focuses on financial advisory and strategy development. I don't know if I should throw this in, but I'll spice it up by just saying that she's an award-winning radio presenter as well, right? It's award-winning, or is it award-nominated?
Nominated.
Nominated is as good as winning, okay? This is when she hosted Me and Me on Kaya FM. I think a lot of people might know her from then, which is when you and I first really interacted and have worked together since, right, Thuli?
Yes, we met at Kaya FM.
Sure. Okay, so before we jump into the big question, which is what to do with our money during COVID-19, which I think speaks to post-COVID-19 as well. How are things on your side? How's business? How are you coping with everything that's going on?
Personally, I'm doing all right. I think I'm in a good space. I'm trying to stay positive and don't let everything that's happening, don't let the negative news get you down, because obviously we've had a lot of negative media, whether it's around COVID or the impact of COVID-19 on the economy, seeing businesses closing or hearing of businesses closing down, you know, people really being stretched. So, I mean, there's a lot of negativity, but I've just tried to keep myself in a really positive space and try to think of life beyond Corona, because there will be life beyond coronavirus. And it's going to be a different world. The world as we know it, as I say, is gone and dead. And the sooner we make peace with that, the better, you know, and start thinking about what is life going to be like post-corona. But I guess whilst you're in it, you've got to find ways of coping and surviving. And I've managed to do that, yeah.
Okay, well, without sort of getting into too much detail, are there particular strategies that you're using? Is there a ritual that you do in the morning? Do you meditate now? What do you do? What works for you?
For me, I think one of the things that has helped me to keep positive is prayer. Just spending time praying, reading the Bible. And lucky enough at our church, at least in April, there was almost like at lunchtime, there was like a half an hour you know, daily prayer. So you could, like how we all tuned in, everybody tunes in. And and we pray together, and that has helped me, and also just listening to YouTube videos, kind of positive motivational YouTube videos, just to keep up in a positive state of mind. That has helped me as well. So
I guess it's also it helps when you
a bit of exercise. Funny enough, I signed, I don't know if people have seen this coming up on their timelines, but figure 8. Figure 8 is this kind of dance workout video thing. So you subscribe and then you have a whole lot of videos. It's basically based on Latin American dance, but it's an exercise video. So that has helped. It's also fun.
Okay, well, there you go. Some nice little things that maybe you can incorporate into whatever you're doing at home. Okay, let's get to the reason we're all here. It's 10:09. Welcome if you're just joining us on the stream. We're talking money today, specifically personal finance. The session is called Opinions. So please share yours, and of course, ask any questions that you might have, and I'll try and get through them as much as possible. So Thuli, there it is. The big question is, what should people be doing with their money during this COVID-19 pandemic that's happening?
Well, Katlego, I mean, people are at different phases and stages in their life. There's some people who do have money. There are those who don't have money. There's some who are trying to get money, and others are wondering if they'll ever get money. So maybe we'll address the different groups.
Okay.
We can start off, I mean, there are a lot of people who are freelancers, and I guess if you're a freelancer or you're a business person that really relied on you working, if you don't work, then you don't get paid. Then obviously this has been a very very gloomy time for a lot of people. So for me, my advice is, if your income has been impacted and you can't earn, think outside of the box. Don't try and focus on what you've been doing. Try and find other things that you could do in the interim to earn some money. It could be maybe finding the talent you have. If you can cook or you can bake, Perhaps start a side hustle. You know, a lot of people, I'm sure you've seen in timelines, everyone is becoming a baker.
Hey,
You know, trying to bake amagui or fry amaguinya or bake banana loaf or biscuits or whatever it may be. So if you've got a talent, maybe look at something like that. Maybe cooking or baking, and then start selling that service so that you can deliver. At least these days, it's easy to have a delivery service. So you can, you know, make your goods, post them on various social media platforms, get people to order. So start making money that way. A friend of mine, actually in the catering business, he started making home cooked meals for people, because during the lockdown you get tired of cooking. We've been cooking a lot, washing dishes, so it is a bit of a breather that's needed to get someone who's going to cook for you.
yeah,
So that could be one. And then on the internet, there are lots of ideas in terms of side hustles. You can look at doing surveys, and some of these surveys are US based, so you get paid in dollars. It may not be a lot, getting paid maybe $50 for a survey, but hey, in rands, it
it goes a
converts
long way.
to it converts into a bit of money. And also, you could also just look at giving advice to people, like perhaps myself, if you know a little bit about a certain subject that people really need advice, maybe start offering online advisory sessions, and people can prepay for that session and you could give them advice. And I like the platform that you've started in terms of just the gig economy, trying to go out there and find various platforms that are offering part-time jobs for freelancers. So try and look at ways that you could earn outside of your usual income. So that would be the first. And then you have people who do have savings and probably are worried if their savings are going to last them enough, because we don't even know when this whole coronavirus thing is going to be over. Yes, we're in level 4 right now, but we don't know how long it's going to take for us to get to level 3, even 2, when more economic activity is going to take place. So it's really about stretching your end, stretching the money that you have. So it might mean downgrading. It's one word that a lot of us
I'm going to put a note
professionals
on
don't
downgrading,
want to
because
hear.
that's a whole other conversation to have, okay?
Yeah,
Because I think a lot of,
downgrading your lifestyle.
yeah, I think a
I
lot of
know a lot.
people have that conversation. It's a difficult one, but they need to definitely have the downgrading conversation. But anyway, not to interrupt you, I'm going to note that we should come back to that, and maybe just some ideas on what it is that people should be cutting down on, but we'll come back to that.
Okay. So for me, I mean, there's certain things that are nice to have. And I suppose during the lockdown, when you're spending more time at home, things like DSTV and Netflix are what have been keeping you company.
Mm,
But if the rand is really tight, maybe you might have to sacrifice some of those subscriptions.
yeah.
And it may not only just be just TV, but gym. If you're not going to the gym, why do you continue paying every month for that gym subscription? Perhaps cancel your gym if obviously your contract allows you to do that. If there's other things that you're paying for at the moment that you're not using, rather look at cutting them at the moment so you can actually save on that money. And also in terms of just buying groceries, rather try and buy in bulk and go to the macros and buy in bulk so that you can save. If you're staying alone or you're one or two people, maybe club up with a couple of friends. Let's all go to macro
Mm.
and buy
Not at the same time.
groceries in bulk. Sorry?
Not at the same time. They must send somebody to go and buy on their behalf. Social distancing, too. Social distancing.
Yes. Obviously, not all go down at the same time, but if you put money together, one person can go and then buy a lot of things that you can share, and you can definitely be able to save money that way. And we are not traveling, so the money that you're saving from either your transport costs or your petrol, look at other ways that you can use that more effectively, because I think everybody has saved money on that. But obviously, we're cooking a lot more, so
Yeah.
it is going
Take a lot more as well.
towards towards money. And instead of buying fresh produce from the supermarket, try and go to more places like food lovers market, so more market kind of environment where they are selling fresh produce at a cheaper price. You can actually definitely look at doing that. And then find books to read. That's another way of entertaining yourself. So instead of spending a lot of data being on social media, this is good. You can tune in. So you can use your data effectively, but don't spend hours and hours on social media or basically streaming movies and that. Save your data and try and find ways to entertain yourself while you are actually under lockdown. And then also stretching your money. Just try and see in your budget as well. What are some of the other things that you can cut out because you are at home? Sometimes people can be buying clothes, and we are moving towards winter. The question is, do you really need a new winter wardrobe? Is last year's one not sufficient? So I guess it's just having those difficult conversations, looking at our budget. If you don't have a budget, then maybe it's time to actually start drafting excuse me, start drafting a budget so that you know what you're working with. And another thing related to savings, if you do have money that's put away in savings, is that interest rates have come down. And so the amount of money that you're earning from your savings has definitely come down, which is not great. And so try and look around. If it's possible, look around what different banks are offering in terms of their interest rates, because obviously everybody's interest rate has come down, but there might be one or two people that are still offering a good interest rate. I don't know if I should mention the bank. Would it be free advertising?
No, go ahead. We're trying to help people here. That's what it is.
I know African Bank is actually offering a very good interest rate on their savings accounts. I mean, before we had the Reserve Bank cutting down interest rates. At some point, one of their accounts was offering about 13.3% on money saved, which is quite high. So it's really about looking around and trying to find a place where you can earn more interest.
In hearing you say that, I think a lot of this ties back to psychology in many ways. So, for example, when you speak about downgrading lifestyle, again, it goes back to psychology. When you're mentioning a bank like African Bank, I know that there are a lot of middle class, and I'll specifically speak for black people.
I know, there's the connotation. You don't want to be associated with African Bank.
Which is weird because, I mean, you're buying the service, not the brand, but I guess the brand counts in a lot of ways. People don't want to have a card that comes out of their wallet be an African Bank one or a Capitec one, yet they seem to be offering competitive rates in terms of, return. I don't understand.
I know, because obviously African Bank was known as targeting the lower LSMs, and it was mainly offering debt instead of transactional services. But obviously, we know what happened to African Bank. It kind of collapsed, had to be rescued. And part of the rescue was trying to relook at their operating model, and which meant that they can't be just on lending. They also need to look at having transactional banking, where they can also start earning money, and also in offering these investment accounts, because obviously they were mainly just a creditor. So now the investment accounts is trying to attract people to invest money with them. So,
make that money work.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was going to reserve the questions for a little later, but we had some questions that came in ahead of the segment, and Shannon sent a question saying, would it be a good time to cancel or cash in on investments to make sure that you've got some extra cash on hand? And I just thought, because we're speaking about it, it might be a good time to answer that one.
Okay. So I guess with that one, you really need to look at how much do you have saved and how much do you need in terms of your monthly expenses and stuff. So for me, if you do need to cash out, if it's possible, maybe cash out a portion of your savings instead of everything. But obviously, it depends on how much you've got saved up. If you don't have much and you really need that money, then I guess it's worth cashing out. And also, that's part of the reason why interest rates are low at the moment. Government is trying to deter people from saving because you're really not earning a lot of money. The economy is not doing well, so we do need to spend. So that's part of the reason why interest rates are low. But obviously, on the other end, if you do have debt, with the lower interest rates, it means that your installments, whether on your bond, on your car, your credit card, whatever you have, those installments have actually come down. So which means it actually allows you to have a little bit of extra cash in your pocket, which is very much needed when things are uncertain. And also, I suppose related to cashing out your investment, it could be wondering whether if you do have shares, should you be selling your shares and getting the cash? And really, it depends. With share investing, it's supposed to be a long game, so you're supposed to ride out the wave of the market. When the market goes down, stay put. It will actually start rising again. But just recently, I was saving or buying shares through my bank, and they were using a fund manager which was not performing. Since we're being honest, I bank with FNB and they have an account called Share Saver, and the Share Saver account, even before the corona thing happened, they were just not performing well. So when I was looking at my portfolio, I was not happy with their performance. So beginning of March, when things were starting to get more uncertain, I decided to cash out, those shares from Share Saver, because their fund manager was not performing, and then just have that money in cash and just put it away in savings. So you could look at that option as well if it is available to you. But also the reverse, if you do want to get into shares, it's the best time to get into share investing at the moment, because the market is down. They always say buy low, sell high. So definitely now is the time to be getting into shares if it's something that you've been thinking about doing and you do have some cash basically to get into it.
Fantastic. It's 23 minutes past 10. It's a Thursday morning. Welcome if you're just joining us on the live stream. This is Opinions. And today we're talking about money, specifically personal finance, right? Trying to demystify some of the challenges that we're all facing around COVID-19 at different levels, of course, which I guess Thuli is highlighting, that we're not all at the same place financially, and we can't have sort of a one-size-fits-all approach to how we handle our money. And in fact, maybe that's a good segue for us to go into the second part of the conversation, where you were saying that because we're not all the same, let's first speak about people who don't necessarily have funds and are looking to just shore up, the holes, if you would. But then on the other side, there are people who might have a little bit more disposable money around, and they don't know what to do with it. And, you just came from mentioning that going into share buying right now would be a great, option to use your money on. Anything else that you'd advise?
Another thing that I would advise is get into property. Property is a good investment, and if you do have a bit of money that you can put in as your deposit, this is a great time. It's definitely a buyer's market. I'm looking at buying as well, and I've just been surprised as I've been browsing the number of properties that say reduced. The price has been reduced, so people are desperate to sometimes offload some of their properties and are willing to reduce the price. So if you're going to buy property, this is definitely the best time to do it. The prices are going down. And of course, if you're going to take out a bond to buy the property, interest rates are lower. So if you're going to buy property now, my advice is make sure that you fix. Banks don't always offer you the option to fix your interest rate.
Yeah.
So my advice is ask for a fixed interest rate, because the rates are relatively low now. and over time they will increase again. So if you get a lower interest rate, it means over the term of your loan, you will end up paying less in interest than if you're buying when the market has higher interest rates. So definitely property would be another option. I guess offshore things are not looking any better than they are in South Africa. So obviously, depending on your risk appetite, you could I don't know if on the retail, how they're going to do that in terms of retail bonds, because obviously with retail bonds it allows you and I to be able to invest in government bonds. So I'm just not sure now the technicality, because obviously government has been downgraded, and so that means, well, we're downgraded to junk status, as they call it, so which means that the government bonds are not investment grade. So I don't know where that puts you and I as a retail investor, whether we can still invest in those bonds, whereas there are investors who do look for junk bonds because they have a higher, I was going to say higher yield, but a higher return. So if you are looking at making that risky investment, definitely. And of course, if you do have an appetite for it, there's cryptocurrency. So you could put your money in crypto. For me, I'm still just dabbing my toes in that water, just trying to understand how the crypto world works and how it moves. And surprisingly, Bitcoin is doing well at the moment. I've just been looking at. Yeah, I've been looking at my account because, initially I just put a little bit of money. I didn't want to risk it because I don't understand this. So just a little bit of money, just to understand how it works, so that as I gain more confidence, I'll probably put in more money towards cryptocurrency. So for those who didn't get in when it was lower, probably, I don't know, it may not be the best time to get into it now because it's quite high. Or if you think it's going to get higher, then you can definitely buy some cryptocurrency and just ride out the wave. And I think obviously this is the first time we've had a major crisis, economic crisis, with cryptocurrency, whereas previously people would put their money in gold when things were uncertain. You knew that gold was a safe haven. You knew if you put your money in gold, you can be able to preserve the value of your money. So I don't know whether cryptocurrency is becoming that safe haven now. It's an alternative place to put your money. So I guess over time we'll know this, that when things become uncertain, put your money in crypto, because it's increased.
It'll also filter out which cryptos are the ones are stable enough and are dependable enough, because I think that there's a couple of 100,000 of them out there, isn't it?
There are. So for me, I've got in my account, I've got Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum is also not doing badly. It's also doing well, but obviously it's not as expensive as Bitcoin. It's a more affordable cryptocurrency to get into. I think Bitcoin is currently at 170 something thousand for one Bitcoin, whereas Ethereum is still, I think, at about 3,500
That's
for
a lot
one.
more affordable.
Yes. So that's a little bit more affordable. So it's also quite a stable currency. So you can put your money. But for me, my advice, if you're going to get into crypto, don't take a huge lump sum and put it there if you don't know how it works. So rather do it like me, starting small, and as you gain the confidence and you understand how long these waves last and ride it out, then you can start putting more money. And I guess as the last thing on crypto, I definitely believe it's gonna take some time, but that's definitely the future of money. Money as we know it will not exist. We will be using some form of digital currency. I know that the Reserve Bank, I don't know if that project is on hold right now, but the Reserve Bank has its own project as well, where they're looking at some kind of digital currency. So
well, One would argue that money hasn't existed since Nixon did what he did, but I mean that's a whole other debate for a long time. Okay, so it's 10:30 now. Let's see if we can take some questions. I'll start with a question that came prior the show, which is Roxanne, and she's asking, what are the catches of taking payment holidays, especially around car repayments? So a lot of financial institutions are offering these sort of holidays. Are they a good idea? Should one be doing it?
For me, my advice is take the payment holiday if you really, really have to.
Okay.
You know, and you have no other option. Literally, you have no income coming in, and there's no way that you can meet that financial obligation. So for me, I would say then take it. But as Roxanne asked, what's the catch?
Yeah.
The catch is that they're gonna take that installment plus the interest on that and put it into your capital of your debt. So they normally call it recapitalizing at that amount. So which means you're actually going to be paying interest on interest, and it's also going to lengthen the term of your loan. So on average, car finance is 60 months. So you might find that your car finance is extended maybe by another 6 months, so that they can accommodate giving you this payment holiday. So it does actually work out more expensive for you in the long run, because, as I said, you're going to be paying interest on interest. So because each installment already has interest. So when they're going to capitalize that and then add interest on top of that, it just makes it more expensive. So if you're really in a tight corner and you need to take it, then my advice is take it, but just bear in mind that your term is going to be longer and you'll be paying more money on that debt.
All right. Togozilin Chabeng. Togo says, would it be advisable for people nearing retirement age to take their packages now and leave? This is looking at how things are going. The fears of pension monies being used by the state.
Yeah, no, that's a scary one. I saw that, I think earlier in the year, where a government was saying they're going to look at money from the government pension fund, use that to rescue some of the ailing state-owned enterprises. So that's a scary thought, because I mean, if SAA has been has been needing rescuing every year. So if you're going to put money into SAA, it's literally putting it down a dark hole. You're not going to get that money back, because with government pensions, whatever money is being used, it needs to actually have a return. People need to get their money back. So for me, I would say if you're going to cash out your package now, don't spend it. So if you're going to take it out of your employer, make sure that you find another place where you can invest the money. And unfortunately, we have Abu Mama, when they retire and get the pension, they want to extend their houses.
Yeah.
People must see them. I've got money. I must extend my house.
Or they want to buy
new furniture. Yes, and they want to buy a new lunch suite, a new bedroom suite, and all of that. But the reality is, you're getting old. Your kids have moved out, and do you really need that bigger house? And chances are you don't need that bigger house. So for me, if you are going to cash out your retirement, make sure that it continues being invested somewhere, so that you don't spend the lump sum. And I hope that it doesn't pass this whole thing of using people's pension monies to rescue state-owned entities. I hope it doesn't go through.
Yeah, that's one thing that we all have to sort of be looking out for as well. Just keep our pulse on, our finger on the pulse of. I've got another question from Neo. Neo says, for me, this time is really teaching us the importance of saving. And what other measures of debt relief are we likely to see being implemented? Is there a chance that government will implement some sort of debt pardon? So I think what he's referring to is sort of blanket pardon for the financial impact that COVID-19 has had.
You see, with the debt pardon, it's not so much government that will have to make a decision on that because it's banks, and debt is the business of banks. So imagine if you are offering a service, you're selling shoes, and suddenly you're told because you manufacture shoes, you have to give shoes to all South Africans for free because it's COVID-19, you know. It's still costing you. At the end of the day, it will still cost you to make the shoes, and you
Sure.
can't necessarily give it away for free. There was it's not quite an act, I suppose, an amendment of sorts that came out towards the end of last year in terms of pardoning people who earn below a certain amount and have debt that is below 50,000. And I think maybe that may probably pass within the next couple of months because it was still proposed to say if you earn, I think it was if you earn under 5,000 and you have debt under 50,000, there'll be some kind of debt pardon. But then if you do turn into that, it means that you can't take out debt in the near future.
Yeah.
Because some people think, oh, okay, I can be pardoned for this debt, and then
And then
in a
go
few
back in.
months' time, yes, and unfortunately, that's what happens. You know, people, you pay off your debt, and then the next thing you know, people are back into debt, and they're finding themselves back to square one. But I think if you do take that option, there'll probably be some kind of limitation in terms of how much debt you can take over the next maybe couple of years. Maybe you may not be allowed to take debt maybe for 5 years, for example. So I don't think there'll be a blanket debt pardon for all South Africans because banks are in the business of debt. It is their business, so they can't just cancel everybody's debt because it's their business. They can't do that. Sorry?
It'll be a dangerous precedent as well to set.
Yes, no, it can't happen because if they cancel all the debt, that means really they can't stay in business. All the banks will close, which will be a problem for the economy. Yeah.
And it'll encourage a lot of reckless behavior with money as well from a consumer point of view. Another question comes and says, what impact does our current state of the current state of our economy have on things like policies, retirement annuities, life policies, etc., etc.?
Okay. So are they referring to what? Just the economic downturn?
Yes, from what I can gather.
Okay. So for me, obviously, your retirement annuity, unit trust, and all of that, all of those products are linked to the market. So the market is down. So which means obviously the value of your portfolio would be down. So that's the impact. Obviously, a unit trust is usually linked to some shares or some kind of property index or whatever it may be. And even with retirement annuities, that money is invested in the stock exchange mainly. So obviously, the markets are down, so that means your portfolio would be down, and there's not much you can do about it. You just have to ride it out. So it's not a good time to cash out.
Okay, so we are almost heading into the home straight now, 38 minutes into our conversation. We're only on until 11. I think there's a part of the conversation that I think is worth bringing home as well, which is black tax. And I don't want to just say black tax because now we're understanding that, you know, our white counterparts have similar responsibilities, maybe not the same way, but this is a conversation I've heard you lean into before and discuss on your radio platform. And I'd want for you to sort of help the person who's sitting here now and thinking to themselves, I've got all this responsibility, not only of my immediate family, but I've got my extended family that I need to help as well. How can I manage? And this isn't so much the technicalities, but I think it might speak to, I suppose, the psychology of how do you handle having to have those difficult conversations around your inability to provide to that extended family anymore, and those kind of challenges.
So I think now more than ever, I think the black tax challenge or burden has increased on people, where you have family members who might have lost their earning capacity. and now be looking at you who may be still working, or at least be able to work from home and are still earning an income. And I think it's really, as I've said before, it's really being honest with your youth, with your family in terms of what you can afford. And really at this time, when everybody's earning ability has been impacted, is being you're probably not going to be able to maybe be able to honor some of the commitments you had before. So if you're giving your family X amount of money per month, maybe you'll not be able to honor that. Maybe you might have to reduce the amount of money that you're able to contribute towards people's livelihood. So it's a conversation that you need to have with your family to say, realistically, this is what I can afford at this point in my life. Or if you can't afford it anymore, to say, yes, I was earning money, but I'm possibly facing retrenchment at the moment. And I'm not able to be able to continue supporting you. All my income has been halved. Some people may still be earning an income, but because of where things are happening, their incomes have been reduced to say you can only earn 60% of your income. You know, the company can't afford to pay you 100%. Everybody's salaries across the board have been reduced so that we can keep the business afloat. So it's really having those honest conversations and saying to people, unfortunately, it's not that I don't want to support you, I don't want to contribute, but honestly, I'm in a position where I can't afford to. Or if I can, maybe it's only 100 Rand I can spare at this time. And it's not much, but maybe try and assist your family to actually take advantage, if they are unemployed, take advantage of the government grant, the 350 Rand grant, so that they can also at least earn an income, find out what the requirements are, which is not a lot. I think you have to register, you need your bank statements, you need a copy of your ID, and you need proof that obviously you're unemployed, hence they need your bank account. And then try and at least get them into those schemes. And unfortunately, it may not sound like the best thing, but there are food parcels out there that government is offering. So try and plug them in so that they can also maybe get those food parcels just to relieve the burden of having to buy groceries. So unfortunately, the black tax, yeah. At this time, it's probably even harder. And as they say, people are, if they were breathing through the wound, now they're breathing through two wounds.
We shouldn't be laughing, but
it's a truth, yeah. Yes.
Okay, well, if you're joining us, unfortunately for you, you've missed about 40 minutes of a conversation, but we still have about 15 minutes to go. We're talking money, specifically personal finance. Where are you? What's happening with your money during COVID-19? How has it affected it? And in the interest of just being completely transparent, I, for one, have been affected by it. My ability to earn has been dramatically impacted. And so a lot of these questions that are being asked by yourselves and are questions that are resonating with me. What should I be doing with my money as well? So yeah, definitely helpful, definitely a conversation I thought is worth hearing your opinions about as well. And feel free to also not to just send questions. If you do have some advice, please do send that through. If there's some
comments, yeah.
Please feel free.
And also we were still going to talk about the downgrading. So that's the one in terms of what are we going to be doing?
Downgrading. And downgrading, we're not talking about Moody's, we're talking about lifestyle downgrade.
Yes. I mean, personally, I have my own experience, you know. I've had to downgrade when I started the business, when I went into this entrepreneurship journey. At the start, it was definitely having to downgrade my lifestyle, you know, and having come from being a banker, earning a lot of money, having bonuses and all of that. So, hey, I last got a bonus in I almost said 19. I was not working in 19.
You were getting bonus in the
90s. That's how it feels. It feels that long ago. But I last got a bonus, I think, in 2008.
Wow.
Imagine, that's when I got a bonus. So thing called bonus is not familiar with me. So I mean, downgrading the lifestyle. I remember I had to. I remember, so with starting the business, obviously I had some money saved, and then I also got a bit of money when I took out the retrenchment package. Well, I didn't take it out, but I volunteered. And so having joined Investec, I think I was only there for a year and a half. So, as they always say, last in,
First
first out. And also, obviously, I hadn't worked at Investec for that long. I think my retrenchment package was only like just 3 months. So it was not a lot of money. So I remember contacting the bank and saying, I've been retrenched and I would like to work out some kind of arrangement with you for my car. So that I could pay a lesser installment or what. And then guess what the bank decides to do?
Come get the car.
Repossess the car.
That's what they wanted their property back.
So instead of working out an arrangement, they decide to repossess the car. But I guess it was in a similar situation where it was post the 2008, economic meltdown. But that was nothing compared to what, the world is going through right now. But luckily enough, my sister had a Tez that she had paid up. So I ended up driving a Tez. So moving from a BMW to a Tez.
Question. Which
Yes.
which side of the road were you driving on now? Because BMW drivers drive on one side of the road and Tesla drivers.
No, it was no more left. It was no more left, unfortunately. We had to keep left this time. So it was that, in terms of not driving the fancy car, not going out for drinks and food and all of that with friends. It was a matter of cutting up the credit cards. I don't know why I needed 3 credit cards. I had 3 credit cards, so it was a matter of cutting those and not using those.
Yeah.
It was also just realizing that all the things, the lifestyle that I was used to being a banker, I couldn't have that anymore. And my sister is the one who also helped me out a lot in terms of, because we stayed together, just taking up some of the expenses, so that the burden is lessened on me. So downgrading might mean even moving back with your parents if you still have that option. Move back home so you don't have to pay rent. If you need to sell the big fancy car, rather do that and buy a smaller nyana car that you can buy cash. And sometimes, obviously, depending on how long you've had your car, you might find that when you do sell it, the bank, there might be a little bit of extra money that comes to you. So rather use that and buy an old, paid up, beat up car that you don't have to be paying installments. And I guess at the moment, it's not like you have an option to be going out for drinks and going out for meals. You're at home. So that's forced on you already.
That's what you have to do.
So yeah, and I guess maybe even selling some of your stuff if you've been, you have fancy taste and you what do they call them? You collect timepieces. Maybe it's time to let go of those timepieces that you open up and every now and again you look at them and you polish them and put them away. So try and find things that you can sell as well, and be able to get cash. And I saw someone put a comment earlier about maybe stop paying for your kids' extramural activities, things like that, because obviously with every child, and they've got swimming, they've got ballet, they've got, I don't know, whatever things. There's some kids whose schedule is busier than our own as adults. It might mean with the kids finding alternative ways of keeping them occupied and entertained and cutting out of some of those expenses as a family. And this also brings me to a point. Some people don't have family discussions when it comes to money. And I think this is a good time to bring in your family, to say, let's have a sit down. This is what's happening. This is what mommy can bring to the table. This is what daddy brings to the table. And realistically, this is how we've been impacted as a family. And for us to stay afloat, would have to cut these things. So don't just cut those extramural activities to kids without having set them down and explain to them why you have to do that. And maybe if you do want to continue at some point, you probably will continue paying for those activities at a future time when things have improved for the family. But it is a good exercise anyway to involve your children in the money discussion, so that they also start picking up some basic financial lessons that they can carry throughout their life.
If anything, the lesson they'll take out at a basic level is the fact that we talking about money. There's nothing healthier in a family than the ability to speak about things in particular, but money is one of those hot topics that they should be speaking about. You know,
and I see my there's advice for you, Katlego. Get into writing gigs for press statements. Com strategy business needs communication right now. Your advisory services will be essential to do it from home.
I'll definitely look into that. We'll definitely check that out. I was just, you know, if there's one thing that I mean, the entirety of this conversation has emphasized for me, and I think it's because I'm probably that way inclined, right, is that a lot of this, outside of having the practical strategies, has to do with just where our psychology needs to be right now. And I think there's been a period where, and I'll speak specifically for Black people, and I'm sure the trolls are going to have me for this, but we've been consuming a lot without necessarily having thought about what it is that we're spending our money on and why it is that we're buying it, you know. I was having a conversation with a family member yesterday, and they were speaking to me about they're in that phase now because they've come into entrepreneurship where they're considering, do I really need this big house anymore? And when I bought it, why did I buy it? What was the psychology behind buying it? Do I need this fancy car, etc., etc.? But anyway, the point is that I think we're being forced by circumstance now to really reconsider our relationship with things, you know. And what it's bringing up is a tremendous amount of shame, I think, for a lot of people, because losing the car embarrasses you to your most immediate circle and to your outer circle and to the world at large and to Instagram and etc., etc. And that's what we're going to have to deal with. That's one of the things we're going to have to sort of speak to, is the fact that your value as a human being, just generally speaking, doesn't come from the positions and possessions that you might.
Material things, yes, yeah. But another. What would I say? For me, it's almost like a very concerning mindset with us as Black people. And I don't know, obviously it's only a subsect of the Black community that's on Twitter, but I find on Twitter there's a lot of negativity.
Of course.
Against people making it. It's almost like Black Twitter, I know people will not like me for saying this, it's almost like we glamorize poverty. If you're poor and you're hustling and you're struggling, then hey, you're doing well. You know, that's, you know, kudos to you. But someone who's doing well and has done well, it's almost like, you know, we're not really celebrating those people, and we find ways of bashing them. So for me, there's going to be a real mindset shift that needs to happen. How do we move away from a point where we look at poverty as our default as Black people? That if you come out on Twitter and you say, no, but I didn't grow up poor. You know, my mom used to shop at Woolies when I was growing up.
Yeah.
People will thrash you on.
No,
on,
you know,
on
you know what that does. You automatically are not Black enough.
You're not Black. So whatever it might be, you're not. That's what I'm saying. That why do we have to use poverty as our default, as a standard? That if you're poor, you need to be. I mean, if you're Black, you need to be poor, and also. This whole thing, obviously, with 350 rand being given to people who, you know, who are unemployed, people are like, yay, now I'm going to apply for this. But also with the whole thing with the grants for children, to say government needs to increase the grants. I remember it was DJ Waras. Waras must fall. Yes, the shady looker, because he said, why must government be responsible for people's children? Government was not there when they made those babies. So why must it be government's responsibility to look after people's babies? And the whole Twitter world was like on him, you know, it was Varus must fall. And it's the reality, some of those things that we as Black people need to address, to say, why do we need to keep to the standard? Why must this be our default? Because we're never going to get to a point where we get out of poverty and we build wealth for ourselves and we build a legacy and have wealth to leave to future generations if we don't celebrate people who are getting out there and are doing it from themselves and are getting out of poverty. And if you are displaying that, people would bet you. Sorry?
And learning from them.
Yes, people would bash you to say, as you said, you're not Black enough or this or that. So I think we need to get out of that mindset to say poverty is a default or a standard for being Black. And if you don't live in poverty, then you're not Black enough. Until we get out of that mentality, it's going to be hard for us to reach financial freedom, as I say, financial freedom in our lifetime.
I think also, you know, that's one part of the conversation, and we've only got about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to try and sum this up as quickly as I can. But there's another side to the conversation, which is that when you do make it, you don't have to have what I call false indicators of success. You don't have to have the big chains. You don't have to have the big branded clothing. You don't have to have, you know, the big cars and the big houses. You don't have to. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. If anybody knows me, they know that I love abundance. I'm all for abundance. But I think what tends to happen is, especially in a situation like this, you find people acquiring those false indicators of success by means that stretch them and put psychological impact on them or stress on them and their family, and et cetera, right? And then when moments like this where the system is shaken, they fall through the cracks because of the fact that they ended up making those bad decisions. But it's because psychologically, we all believe that we are, you're only successful if you're able to demonstrate that wealth. And I know that there's somebody who's going to come and they're going to tell me about Mensa Musa and the fact that he used to wear gold chains and was the wealthiest man. I know all of that.
Yes.
But we're dealing with our 2021 situation and saying, you know, do I have to have the Rolex on as a person for me to be wealthy? Or should I be understanding that the principles of wealth happen in my bank account? They happen, you know, there. That's where they should be applied, not necessarily be demonstrated to the world. But anyway, before I get all preachy.
I'm sure you've heard this before, where they say new money shouts and old money whispers. So I think it's that's part of it in terms of, because part of it is also lack of education, because people think when they get money they have to acquire material things. But I guess if we increase the availability of information to say that, look at various you know, options for you in terms of investing. So just look at ways that you can invest. And I think I'll even push it one level more to say,
we've got about
we must be
left.
Okay, that we must become philanthropists. Why must it only be white people that are seen as philanthropists? You don't have to be a billionaire as well to be a philanthropist. So at whatever level you're at, start giving and sharing that money you have and wealth with other people. And I think this time more than any other time is the one that has pushed people, opened up opportunities for people to be generous and be able to share whatever they have with others, because a lot of people are in need.
Okay, there you have it. We're about to wrap. I'm going to literally give you 10 seconds to leave. One last thought for our list.
One last thought is, stay positive, be hopeful. We will get through this season or period, and things will become better. They won't be the same or like they were in the past, but it will get better.
There you go. This has been Opinions with myself, Katlego Mabusela, and that is Thuli Magubane, and she's been giving her opinion on personal finance. I'll see you again next week, Thursday. Thank you so much, Thuli. Take care.
Bye.
And that is it, folks. Now,